All right, let's cross to other news. And a new report has once again returned a damning verdict on the Kenyan education system. In its sixth year of assessing basic literacy and numeracy skills, Uwezo Kenya reveals that on average, only 30 out of 100 Class 3 pupils can do Class 2 work, while 8 out of 100 pupils in Class 8 cannot. The study results, which were released today in Nairobi, observed that teacher distribution is what is important as they are critical learning for this. The findings indicate that low pupil to teacher ratios have a strong effect on learning. The study was done between October and November 2015. Over 130,000 children aged 6 to 16 from all counties were tested. Right, and let's talk more about this particular report. Joining me in studio is Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa. He is the Uwezo Kenya Country Manager. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you for
So
having
talk to
me.
us about this report, some of those things I'm just reading there about Class 8 students not being able to do work exercises for Class 2 is worrying. Talk to us about the report in general.
Generally, we think the report shows improvement, slight improvement though, because when we started these surveys years back, we had very low percentages of Class 3, for instance, who could do Class 2 work. And now it shows that there is a slight improvement from initially 19 out of 100 to now 30 out of 100 Class 3 who can do Class 2 work. But what is worrying is you have children in Class 8 who cannot do Class 2 work, and they are 8 out of 100. Not so much, but it's still too much to be at peace for those of us who are interested in learning.
In learning.
Yeah.
And what does this point to in as far as the root problem?
One thing is clear, that the distribution of teachers across the country is not equitable. And the areas that have low teacher to classroom ratio have also recorded low learning outcomes. So that points to absence of adequate teachers, I think, mainly.
Mainly, lack of adequate teachers.
Yeah.
And you usually, when you come up with these reports, engage with other stakeholders like the teachers' employer?
Yes, we do. We normally share with the Teacher Service Commission. This time, we didn't find them because they're very busy in the field, but we still have a meeting scheduled with them, and we have a meeting scheduled with the Ministry of Education top officials to just let them know the picture that is there on the ground and see if there is something that can be done to try and improve that.
Would you say that this kind of challenges where you have incompetent, and in terms of the learning and what they're getting by the end of their primary school education as opposed to the lower classes is also perhaps partly to blame on free primary education? Because you talk about teachers and they're not being enough, but isn't it because you have so many students in classrooms? You have 100, there have been even, reports about 150 and one teacher. Surely it would be almost impossible to cater personally to each of their needs.
For a long time, I think the pupil-teacher ratio is a problem.
Yeah.
That has improved significantly. It is actually now 34 pupils to a teacher, which is very good. The problem is that the teachers are not in all the schools where they need to be. So that's why actually this year we didn't report pupil-teacher ratio, because if you look at the pupil-teacher ratio, it will give a misleading picture. If you go to a school that is small, they have 100 pupils, and they are distributed class 1 to 8, and that school has 4 teachers. If you look at the pupil-teacher ratio, it's 25 to 1, which means it is very good. But then, at any given time, when all these 4 teachers are in class, there will be still 4 classes unattended. And that's why we chose to focus on teacher-classroom ratio.
So when you say teachers are not where they're meant to be, sorry to interject, what do you mean?
Rural areas in particular have less teachers compared to urban areas, and more children are in the rural areas. So there are certain incentive issues that need to be addressed to make sure we have teachers in the area that are rural and we have teachers in marginalized areas. Garissa County, for instance, has, Garissa and Mandera have 6 teachers for every school that has 10 classrooms. So it means at any time, when all the teachers are in class, you have 4 classes unattended. Yet, if you compare with other counties, that ratio is different. So we need to redistribute teachers. Once we have redistributed, we'll then be able to talk about the shortage with clear mind of how much shortage we have. Right now, I think the shortage is there, but it's not so much. The bigger problem is distribution.
Right. Yeah. Is this the only issue you looked into in as far as your research?
No, we also looked at the issue of the preschool policies that the government has put in place. Mm-hmm. And there is a problem with the preschool issues because according to policy of government, children should go to preschool at age 4. We found 2 3-year-olds in preschool. So that is clearly not being followed. Also, there is still a dispute on who should hire preschool teachers. We found 46% of preschool teachers have been employed by county governments. Some of them are going around and calling them other names to avoid the dispute, calling them caregivers, calling them all other names. So that issue needs to be resolved, the issue of whether it is the county governments or it is the Teacher Service Commission that will employ preschool teachers. Yeah. That is in court, has not been resolved. Okay. Then we have the issue of the qualifications of those preschool teachers. Only 42% are trained, those that we found. Wow. The rest, someone looks at you and thinks you look like you can take care of kids and you are made a teacher, and that is a problem.
Yes, and when you talk about, preschool and the age at which kids are joining, even the CS, as he was releasing the KCPE results, mentioned that there was such a young group of people, registering for the exams and completing school that, do you think that's a conversation the country should have?
We should actually have, because we also found in some of those marginal areas, children who are 6, 7, 8 in preschool again. Okay. And that is overage. And they end up not doing well in school because they feel out of place when they're in a class where the general population is much younger than themselves. And so we think that is something important. The entry age into school is important to talk about. And it continues along the way. So by the time you finish your Form 4 and you're ready for university, you need to have at least attained 18 years. Yeah. So you are able to have your ID and be a responsible citizen when you're going to university. Yeah. Rather than you're 16 and you finished your Form 4. Yeah. So what happens now?
Because the ministry has received a lot of accolades, especially the CS, following the, no incidences of cheating being reported, the expediency in as far as release of the results. Looking at that, and of course that's just one aspect, the education sector has numerous other angles to it. Do you think, though, it's heading in the right direction? Earlier on in the year, we saw a conversation around the curriculum, which is very important in as far as what these children are learning, and what we're also able to produce at the end of their years, whether it's in primary or high school. Are you satisfied that the education sector in Kenya is heading in the right direction?
I am happy with what the CS has done so far. As an institution, we are happy, but we want this to be institutionalized, so it is not an individual. We don't want to see what happened with the transport sector when Michuki was there. And it worked.
When he left, and everyone misses him and remembers him.
And everything returned to where it was. Yes. We would like this to be built into the institution so that it is the norm, not an individual initiative that makes that happen. So we know when children sit exams that there will be no cheating because measures have been taken to prevent that. We know that results will come out in early December, so parents can prepare for these kids to join Form 1 early enough in January. We know that the teachers will be supervised as they should, and if there are disputes, that TSC and the ministry will be able to resolve issues affecting teachers together with the unions without necessarily maybe going to courts and getting injunctions that end up frustrating everyone who is involved in the management of schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And it's good you said that institutionalize these changes, because it would be unfortunate to have the scenario we saw unfold in as far as transport is concerned. Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, for joining us. Emmanuel Manyasa is country manager of Uwezo Kenya, talking to us about their findings in as far as the education sector here in Kenya is concerned.